in a sea of overwhelming amount of misinformation. For example, the worst one being the New York Post Twitter account saying that the airstrikes in Gaza that killed 20 people, including 9 children, were carried out by Hamas instead of Israel, by the way. I don't know if you guys remember. I don't know if you guys saw that yesterday. Like, literally, New York Post straight up was just like, yeah, Israel struck down Gaza, but it was actually still it was Hamas. Hamas actually killed all of those Palestinians. Like, it's so f***ed up. They are so f***ing dog shit and gotten so used to just like outright lying or outright like making Palestinians out to be the villains in every story that they just straight up went and just said it. I'm from Israel and I'm curious, what do you want Israel to do about the rockets? Dude, Iron Dome it up, baby. 100%. And here's another way to avoid the creation of additional militants. Okay? It's the same take I always have, so it's not going to be shocking to most people. Stop bombing neighborhoods, dog. Okay? Iron Dome it up all the way. Stop bombing neighborhoods, and also no longer continue to have Gaza operate like the world's largest open-air prison. Okay? Because every time you kill a baby in Gaza, you will create 10 more militants that want to fight against Israel. Okay? And I can't even sit here and be like, that's wrong. What would you do? What the would you do if your spawn point is Gaza and your entire family has been eviscerated? Okay? Why wouldn't you hate this government that is doing untold amounts of cruelty to you? Why would you turn around and be like, no, I actually love the fact that they yeeted my baby cousin inside of her crib in her apartment? Why? Like, why would you expect them to literally turn around and be like, no, I'm gonna be reasonable about this? It is literally the reasonable thing. These people have no other option. It's not like they have a bright future ahead. They have no infrastructure. They have no robust education system. They have nothing. They have nothing. They're already in the corner, and you're still slapping them around. What do you expect? Noam Chomsky said this, and I will repeat it. It's a great take, but unlike the South African apartheid, where black people were needed, the Israelis don't even want the Palestinians. Like, they don't even want to enslave the Palestinians. They just want them to go away. They want to murder them. They want to displace them. And they are successfully doing so, slowly but surely. Okay? That's the difference. And I'm not saying that, like, you know, the South African apartheid was good. Obviously, there's other, there is a tremendous amount of pain and cruelty within the apartheid system in South Africa. So terrorism, shaking my head, do better. Shut the up. I'm not condoning lobbing missiles into Israel either, you idiot. But you have to recognize that there is no other opportunity. Even, okay, if you don't understand my point of view, before we get to this video, let's watch that video from the State Department again. Let's watch that. Hold on. And maybe you'll get a better appreciation for the Palestinian side when the American government is like trying to say, no, we're going to give unconditional support to Israel and aid to Israel in this time, in the time of need, right? Here it is, dude. Here it is. Here are the reporters pressing U.S. State Department on Palestinian right to self-defense. Let's hear. Do Palestinians have a right to self-defense? What does Ned Price, the U.S. State Department spokesperson, have to say about this?
Principle of self-defense.
I'm asking if you think that the principle of self-defense applies to the retaliatory the airstrikes that they're conducting in response.
Matt, this is a very fluid situation. I would hesitate to comment on operations beyond, the rocket fire that is clearly targeting innocent civilians in Israel. So I would hesitate to speak to specific operations that have just occurred. But the broader principle of self-defense is something we stand by on behalf of Israel and every other country.
Do you think that an Israeli military response to the rockets coming in, a military response?
Syrian Gamer 1, are you really advocating for violence? Do you not understand the concept that we're talking about right now? Don't ask me why this happens or how to solve it. if you don't like the answers I'm giving you, okay? I'm not advocating for violence, you dumb f. The Iron Dome is one of the world's greatest fucking defense systems where any sort of rocket fire coming in will be intercepted by Israeli surface-to-air missiles and blown up when it's in the air. It's great. It's a wonderful technological feat. I agree, and I think it's a good thing. I'm glad that countries have it.
Response to the rockets coming in is covered by this broader rubric of self-defense, right?
Self-defense often does authorize the use of force.
Thank you, Matt. I want to ask you about East Jerusalem, but let's talk about what you said about the principle of self-defense. Does that in any way apply to the Palestinians? Do they have a right to self-defense? Do Palestinians have a right to self-defense?
Broadly speaking, Saeed, we believe in the concept of self-defense. We believe it applies to any state. I don't think that I certainly wouldn't want my words to be construed as.
I understand. I want to ask you on Israel. I don't want to harp on this either, but the Israelis killed 13 people just now, including maybe 5 or 6 children. Do you condemn?
The Iron Dome is only 90% effective, and 2 Israelis have died as well as a consequence of some of the strikes penetrating through the Iron Dome.
Do you condemn the killing of children?
Saeed,
this is really important. I want you to understand, he's saying, so what's up? If Israel has a right to self-defense, then what about Palestinians? Do Palestinians also have a right to self-defense?
I don't think that I certainly wouldn't want my words to be construed as.
I understand. I want to ask you on Israel. I don't want to harp on this either, but the Israelis killed 13 people just now, including maybe 5 or 6 children. Do you condemn that? Do you condemn the killing of children?
Saeed,
I'm asking. Do you?
I love the American State Department because your spokesperson cannot say, I condemn the killing of children. Well, also, the American military also kills children too. So that's, but those kids are brown and they're Muslim. So it doesn't fucking matter.
Do you condemn the killing of Palestinian children?
Obviously, and these reports are just emerging, and I understand, I was just speaking to the team, I understand we don't have independent confirmation of facts on the ground yet, so I'm very hesitant to get into reports that are just emerging. Obviously, the deaths of civilians, be they Israeli or Palestinians, are something we would take very seriously.
Okay.
You're going to know as soon as I read what your answer was that there's a big problem with it. You said, well, not a problem, it just doesn't answer the question. We believe that it, meaning the right to self-defense, applies to any state. Well, you see the problem, right? Yes?
Do you want to?
Do you regard Palestine as a state?
I wasn't
referring.
Do
you think that? Do you?
But
don't in the context of.
If rockets were fired at U.S. from homes, do you expect the U.S. not to retaliate? Great question, my friend. The difference there is that the United States would be retaliating against California, okay? Imagine if every other state with the exception of Texas had this incredible defense system, and the dumbasses over at Texas, some of the dumbasses over at Texas, because you have friends and family in Texas, they're still human beings in Texas, okay? Some of the dumbasses in Texas decide to lob rockets when we have occupied Texas at this point. We've surrounded Texas on all parts. Nothing goes in, nothing goes out. Every single Texan is now treated as a second-class citizen, not a real human being, devoid of any human rights whatsoever. Texas is now the world's largest open-air prison, okay? And they choose to retaliate against American actions because, they're going to church on Sunday, okay? They're going to church on Easter gathering, and we decide to lob gas canisters in their church and push them out as we slowly, in America, are taking different parts of Texas and literally separating Texans from their homes, putting them in camps, putting them in jails just for the crime of being a Texan and for the crime of being a citizen. Okay, we're literally paving through their network of homes, literally systematically pushing each Texan home away from one another and settling real American citizens inside of Texas, and then those Texans retaliate when on Easter Sunday their church gets bombed, okay? Those rockets are nearly all of them are intercepted. And then we turn around and we bomb the out of Texas and kill a bunch of Texan babies. That is a better comparison. And even then I can't begin to describe how horrific what Israel has been doing for the longest time is, okay? Jesus Christ. Sounds like you're describing what we did to the Native Americans. It is what we did to the Native Americans, and it was considered genocide, and it is considered genocide, just like what Israel is doing is genocide too. Straight up. So to try to like oversimplify things and make it seem as though like there are bad people and they just decided to be bad out of nowhere and are just lobbing missiles into Israel for no reason is psychotic. Yes, Hamas is bad. Okay, I'm not the type of person who's going to be like, oh my God, the Hamas's existence is purely justifiable. But you have to understand that like Hamas's existence is great for Israel. Okay, it's great for the Israeli government. It's literally a gift to the Israeli government. But look no further than the West Bank and the treatment of Palestinians in the West Bank to recognize that it doesn't matter. There doesn't need to be a violent reaction for Israel to decide to you over. Okay? If Israel was purely engaging in a proportional response, they wouldn't bomb the out of buildings with little kids in them, okay? And then try to justify it by saying Hamas uses little kids as a meat shield. Dog, you literally do not comprehend what you're saying. You are basically admitting to not humanizing that Palestinian child when you say it's a meat shield. Motherfucker, it's only a meat shield when that kid dies. And that kid dies in your hands, okay? You're killing them and then saying, oh, they're meat shields. GG's, boys. Shouldn't have stepped in the way, okay? What you have here is a religious fundamentalist, conservative group of Muslims engaging in any action they can to I guess defend themselves or retaliate in a violent manner, okay, against a government, a state that is significantly more powerful than them, but also incredibly religious and fundamentalist and interested in bloodshed and ethnic cleansing, okay? So you have two conservatives warring against one another. One conservative militant group has nothing, like literally nothing. They have nothing, dude. They're dog shit. They have nothing. The other side has everything and does not demonstrate the seriousness and the responsibility that comes with having sovereignty in a region like that. Anyway, but there's also the other side of this equation that I neglect to mention, which is that, the IDF posts a lot. And there's cute IDF soldiers, and they look great in their military garb. And also they have vegan food options, and they're very gay. I don't know. Listen, if you're doing genocide, but it's intersectional, think about that for a second.
To the ICC and the UN. So are you saying that you do not, if it applies to any state, are you saying that Palestinians don't have a right to self-defense?
Yeah.
I was making a broader point.
Yes, he's trying to say that the right to self-determine, or the right to self-defense is only given to states. And Palestine is not a state. That's the real Weasley answer, okay? That's what he's trying to say here.
Not attached to Israel or the Palestinians in that case.
So they do have a right to self-defense.
Matt, I'm not in a position to debate the legalities from up here. What our message is one of de-escalation.
But like, none of this is shocking, okay? And as I said, and I earlier brought this up, but like, the militant actions of Hamas is a fucking gift to the incredibly reactionary, right-wing, ultra-nationalist, fascist Israelis in the Israeli government, because then they can further justify the untold amounts of bloodshed that they will subject all Palestinians to. It is the 1350 of in Israel, okay? That's what it is. In America, psychopathic white supremacist reactionary Republicans will say, well, 13% of the population is black, but they're responsible for 50% of the crime. It's like, no, motherfucker, first of all, we're not even examining why those conditions have been created where violent crime occurs or crime in general occurs or what crime is. But even beyond that point, like, you're basically trying to post hoc rationalize subjecting an entire group of people to cruelty and punishments for the actions of a few. Okay? You're looking at Palestinians as a monolithic structure, and that is just on its face, that's bigotry. That's it. That's all it is. You cannot justify over every Palestinian person because of the actions of a few. All right? And Palestinians do not want to leave that area. I'm not saying that they can, but what do they get away, or do they want to stay in their land? What are the reasons that they can coexist with one state Muslims, Jewish? I'm just trying to understand it a bit better. My friend, like, if you have lived in a fucking house your entire life, and then just someone comes in and says, "No, this is my house now," and the government and the military that has like occupied your region for the longest time is like, "Yeah, no, it's not your house." Where are you supposed to go? Like, what are you supposed to do? Like, listen, people have brought up so many different like ideas or whatever, but it's not like Palestinians have an option. Their only option is to die, motherfucker. That's it. If your goal is to displace and ethnically cleanse an area and remove a group of people from that area, then your literal only option is to die. And this is something that people don't understand. This is something that people refuse to comprehend. Like, there is no just move to Tel Aviv, dog. What are you doing in Jerusalem? Like you think these people are just like, "Oh no, there's much better real estate. Please, sir, come and come and settle into this new house." Like, it doesn't work that way. They're like, "Get the out of here, and I hope you retaliate so we can kill you." Okay, that's how it works. It's ethnic cleansing. Like, it's like asking a Jewish person in the lead up stage of the Holocaust. They'll be like, "Well, why are you guys trying to stay in Germany anyway? Like, I don't understand. I mean, can't you just like move to a different part of Germany? Just move to Poland, forehead. It's literally like the same shit. Come on, it's illegal, dude. I don't understand. It's just literally illegal now. Oops, sorry." Do you think people are becoming aware of the issues, or are we extremely online? No. I think that, I mean, here, it's linked to one another here. Okay. Bibi Netanyahu is a militant, corrupt piece of shit, okay? And he has shifted the Overton window over the course of his reign over Israel to a really, really violent conflict. Every time there's any sort of pressure, you want to improve your approval ratings, you know, go ahead, unleash the IDF on the settlements, and then and go in and expand your territory in the West Bank. And then when there's retaliation, when there's inevitable retaliation from Gaza, then murder a bunch of people in Gaza, and then you're good. Everyone's going to forget, because now everyone is terrified that there's going to be a bomb that blows up on top of their heads. Okay? And it was like that even before Netanyahu as well, but Netanyahu's administration has like greatly they've turned us into a mathematical equation. So, with Trump's devastating move of legitimizing like Israel's stake on Jerusalem by moving the American embassy to Jerusalem, and that's why he's like loved by so many reactionary in Israel, and also reactionary in America for the same reason. In the aftermath of all that, and with no condemnation seemingly from the Joe Biden administration, and Joe Biden administration like literally saying, "We're not going to do to Israel, chill out, come on, we love Israel." They have decided, or Netanyahu has decided, with the threat of a looming corruption trial ahead of him, that he is going to greatly increase the pressure. Okay? That's it. I mean, guys, these motherfuckers literally, dude, they went and they killed a nuclear scientist on, was it in Iraq or was it on Iranian soil too? Like, there's no hiding. Like, they're just straight up like, "Nah, we're going to kill you." It doesn't matter if you're like literally a nuclear scientist. Like, it literally doesn't matter. We will find you, we will come to you, and we'll kill you. Okay? Like, there is nothing. There's no stopping. There's no like scale this back. It was in Iraq, but it wasn't Iranian. Yeah. And Hamas's existence is seen as a legitimizing force for Israel's unspeakable cruelty. And even if, nice confirmation bias, my friend, and even if Hamas didn't exist, even if Gaza didn't have like Teflon made rockets they lob over from their buildings, from their destroyed buildings over on Israeli territory, Israel would still subject Palestinians to unjustifiable cruelty, as they have literally done so over and over again. Like I said, look no further than what is happening in the West Bank and the settler terrorism that Israel has engaged in, and how Israel's response, or rather treatment of people who are engaging in an act of terror, displacement of Palestinians, the indigenous population that has like lived there from their homes, and how they went from looking the other way to literally supporting it over the course of like the past 10 years. Okay? So they don't give a it doesn't matter. You don't have to fight back for Israel to behave the way that it does. Israel is also engaged in an act of territorial expansion beyond the West Bank as well, with the territorial expansion on Syrian soil with Golan Heights. And they do so because no matter how much the UN finger wags at Israel, it does not matter, because they can get away with it because America will always back them.